Welcome, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Oh my, the numbers are spinning away. So I'm going to take a moment to let you all get comfortable and find your places on this June edition of Meetings of Minds. And the year has been whipping by. And I can see the messages coming through from everywhere, from Deutschland, from Essex, from everywhere. Here we go, Latvia. And it's really fascinating for me because I've had a busy year on the road. I've been to lots of places this year. So I would imagine there's a lot of people here who I've seen in person not too long ago, probably last weekend, some from the weekend before. It's been an incredible year at Zinzino. Oh my, the growth, the impact, the change, the innovation. And it's on innovation that we are all gathering here today, because that's what we're going to take a look at. As you will know, on the Meetings of Minds, we have a variety of topics and we bring in guest speakers, experts, leaders who can take us through some product formulation, through health aspects. I mean, we've been to a lot of places, and at Christmas, we all wear Christmas jumpers and we take stock of the year. But this one is definitely about innovation. Some of you will have been here in attendance a couple of months ago when we had the people from Chianti here and we went through how phenomenal and unique their production system is and how they do things over there with regards to the olive oil. Well, if you thought that was good, and personally I thought it was incredible and pretty amazing, then today is going to take it to a whole nother level, as my good friend Art likes to say. And so, on that note, and without further ado, I would like to invite Tino Bacchetta to join me. Tino, if you'd like to turn on your camera and say hello to these incredible good people. The numbers seem to be steadying off now, so I think we're getting to a level audience. Tino, welcome.
Hi, Colin, and hi, everybody here. Nice to see you today.
It's good to have you here, Tino. Now, what people don't realize is Tino and I have been in several meetings together. And so I kind of know Tino a little bit now. And obviously, when we're here in front of all you people, it's a bit more formal and all the rest of it. And so I'm going to just give you little bits of insights to Tino. Tino is such a well-rounded character. And I have to say, as somebody who has been privileged to study at some of the best universities in the world, who I network with some incredible academics and people on a daily basis. Tino, you are in the absolute top category of minds I have ever met in my life. Your way of looking at things, of processing things, of taking on a challenge, and your level of innovation. It's actually unique, Tino. And my hope today is that in your presentation, which is going to take up the first part, and in the conversation we have, the people here get to get some of the essence of that and what it means in regards to what we're doing moving forwards. So,
No
without
worries.
further, my good man, I'm going to hand over to you. So, everyone here, Tino's going to take us through some content, pens, pads, pencils out, take some notes. These are learning opportunities. This is really about the spearhead of what we do as an organization and where we're going. So have your pens at the ready. And Tino, I will hand over to you. I will silence myself until you've finished your part. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Colin. Thanks for the introduction. I appreciate it. So, without further ado, let's move on to this. I just want to make sure that everyone can see this. Can you see the Prezi, guys?
Yep. Yeah, we can see
Yeah.
that.
Okay, so basically, this is really a bit of a history in regards to what happened and where we're actually where we've been and where we're going and the future for this particular technology. So I've done this in such a way that it's in a time frame, so we can understand why the spirulina actually got endorsed in the first place, and I guess all the trials and tribulations that I've had to go through to actually come out with the best technology for spirulina growth and for future technology, which we'll see later on. So, without further ado, what happened? Well, in 1968 to 1974, there was a massive problem with crop yields worldwide, and it was a call for action to find out what's going on and how the UN could actually fix it. So in 1968, 1974, the issue which started the ball rolling for the UN to make serious decisions is because there was overuse of fertilizer and pesticides in food crops, and there were climate issues, climate change, and there was the repercussions of that were the economic pressures on the farmers. And so we had a problem, and why crops were failing was basically due to depletion of the soil, the resistance in pesticides, and all of that resulted in the poor yield. And it actually started the increase in global malnutrition, which we still know today. So in May 1974, the United Nations had a non-public, a private meeting. It was a special session. And the idea was to address these global problems on a global scale with regards to the food safety and agriculture food security. So what they did, and they didn't mention it publicly, is in May 1974, they actually endorsed spirulina as a future food for the world. And shortly after, in November 1974, they had a World Food Conference in Rome, and that was when spirulina was publicly announced to be the superfood, and I want to make sure that people understand superfood for humankind and a solution for sure for malnutrition. The real problem at this stage back in 1974 was there's absolutely no technology or infrastructure to cultivate spirulina at global scale. And as a result of this lack of technology, the use of synthetic pesticides now and fertilizers accelerated 100 times or more so that they could combat the problem with farming economics and global nutrition, hence soil depletion that we see today, less nutrients in food today as a result. So shortly after they mentioned and publicly announced spirulina was a superfood, the first thing that the UN did and various other governments around the world, they decided to invest through grants from the Department of Energy in the United States to address food shortages and malnutrition, i.e. to combat the issue of let's find a technology to grow spirulina, because it is a solution to not use chemicals for agriculture and hence put further strain on the environment. So what happened? Well, in 2006 to 2012, I was drafted as an engineer. I got my degree in Brunel University in Uxbridge in London. And as an engineer, my job was to test such systems to basically come up with the ultimate system that we have today. So the systems I actually tested were this particular system called a raceway pond. It gets its name, raceway pond, because it's like a racetrack. These systems were used since the 1950s in small scale. In fact, the superfood that everyone hears for spirulina was made in these systems. However, they are cheap to build, but they are extremely labor intensive. And as I was testing them, they are definitely weren't suitable for products for human consumption. You have a lot of air molecules out in the air. You're using the sun to grow the algae. You have a whole heap of contaminants. And these systems basically were made of plastics, and you'll see that in the next slide. And therefore, they contributed to nanoparticles as well. So not a great system for what we would appreciate the spirulina we use today. So what did these guys actually do? Well, they realized that contamination was a problem. It's quite funny. So they decided, and you can see the picture previous, the size of it, that's about an acre of land. And they decided to put greenhouses over them, which inherently became a lot more expensive. No such cheap system was available. And therefore, these systems, you can see from the white fins here on this particular slide, they're made of plastic, and inherently, as the nutrients which have salt and trace elements in them, they actually, as this goes around and circulates using this particular paddle wheel, they actually abrase this plastic, and that's what causes the nanoparticles. So there was no change to the advancement or the upgrade of putting the greenhouses. It just inherently made a huge cost with no real gain, basically. What subsequently happened is the people looked at, okay, let's keep the system cheap. And therefore, somebody came out with the hanging bags. They were first used in algae in 1980. And by the year 2000, this particular adopted technology was scrapped completely. Why? Well, you can see here from the slide, the single-use plastic that ultimately is going to cause a lot of waste, a lot of plastic waste that we can't have today. Nanoparticles is still a problem. So there was no real advancement apart from saving the expense of a greenhouse. So we've gone one pace forward and one step back, basically. In the end, they decided, and these are all over the world right now, these particular tubular bioreactors, the first photobioreactors, if you like, that had some form of control. However, the tubes are made of plastic, so nanoparticles still exist. The algae starts at point A. Before it enters the tube, it runs through these tubes, which are at minimum 30 kilometers in length. It takes 28 hours to run the algae through from point A, the entry point, to the exit point before the algae is tested. Again, it's using sunlight, and I don't know if anybody's figured out how to actually control sunlight itself, you know, infrared all the way through to ultraviolet. It's impossible to control that. So with all this heat that's on these systems and 28 hours for the algae to run through, you can imagine that it resulted in a higher yield of algae, but a very, very low nutritional profile, nothing even close to what we have today. The other thing as well is, I don't know if anybody's ever tried to clean 30 kilometers of tubes whilst the system's running. It's physically impossible. And so this was a step in the right direction, but still using plastics is not the answer. The advancement, believe it or not, was to put it in a greenhouse again. It's pretty amazing. The only difference is that they decided to use, instead of plastic tubes like you see here, these ones are now glass tubes. So inherently, they removed the nanoparticles that could exist. So that's a positive. On the other side, you're still having an expensive system because of greenhouses and the system itself, and you're still using sunlight. And again, you still have the inherent problem of cleaning these systems, and therefore there's inherent downtime in production. In 2012, I patented a patent, or my team patented, we had a patent regarding the use of not using the sunlight, which the previous systems used, is to use LED, light emitting diode lights. These were standardized actually in 2019. And basically, it was designed, really, the light was designed so you could control the spectrum of light. LED doesn't give heat like the sun does, and it certainly doesn't give ultraviolet unless you have a bulb that's ultraviolet. So for sure, the standardization of these bioreactors using LED was definitely a future-proof move on our part and the industry in general. So with all that testing, with the patent, etc., there were a few points, and I'm not going to go through this and read it to you just very quickly. We had to make sure that the contamination and particles are fully addressed. We've got to make sure that we're not using plastics. The nutrients to grow algae can be controlled and adjusted so that the algae can get what it needs when it needs it. And we've got to make sure, and the most important factor in these systems is control of light, temperature, pH, amongst other factors. The idea as well is not to make the systems that work on a horizontal plane. They've got to work on a horizontal and, just like vertical farming, a vertical plane, which means you ultimately will use less land mass. So I decided to challenge the industry, and that's exactly what we did, and here we are today. So the advancements based on that challenge were the following. You can see here in the factory that in 2012, 2019, we added more patents. And ultimately, you'll see later on that this particular installation allows us to go vertically and horizontally for a system. The system's modular. The system's made out of stainless steel. Why is it made out of stainless steel? Because it has 20 plus lifetime, if not more. It can be vertically stacked, and it's only using farmer grade material. So just like the other systems, there's no cheap way of doing it. They ended up putting greenhouses were expensive. Well, this system is actually cheaper and is future proof as far as the materials are concerned. We had to make sure that the algae had the right light, the right spectrum, unlike sunlight. And so we were able to control, using our patent, we were able to control the whole spectrum. And if anyone knows how to grow algae, you'll understand that green light for green leaves or plants, whether it be algae or plants in the garden, if they've got green leaves, they don't use green light. They only use the green light for things such as phycocyanin and protein production, which comes later on after the cell's grown. So we had to develop an intelligent software to actually do so. The other thing is that algae requires CO2. The plus of climate change is basically there's more CO2 in the air. And so we pressurize by pumping the air with the CO2 into this particular module, which is hermetically sealed. And therefore it's pressurized, which means no pathogens or any contaminants can actually physically get into this system. And here's a 2 meter module. So as the demand grows, we add 2 meters to 2 meters to 2 meters, and it grows horizontally, and it can grow vertically as well. You can see here, this is a 30 linear meter in one line, the bottom line. You can see here it goes up. So we're using 30 meters of land by 1 meter, so 30 square meters, but it's actually 90 square meters total in actual algae cultivation. So that's where we win as well. You can see by size comparison the particular tubes that I mentioned earlier. You can see on the left-hand side, the gentleman's hand, the tubes are probably no bigger than the length of his hand, let's call it. And you can see our only, or the only industrial bioreactor registered, where I'm actually sitting in our tube. So a huge difference. There's the play of the algae world, or there's the serious industrial. And ours is the only system that's in stainless steel in the world that is industrially registered as well here in Spain. So let's have a look at the land requirements that I've been discussing. Well, if we just take 400,000 litres over the 3 different systems, that's raceway ponds, tubular bioreactors, and our system, which is the last photo here, you can see that the land mass goes from 4,046 square metres of land, which they used for the superfood, remember, in 1974, to lowering to 2,300 in the tubular systems, to our system, which only uses 750 square meters. Our system is the only system that is for animal feed, human nutrition, and also farmer grade. The other system's not farmer grade. The other important factor is because our system doesn't use sun, it means we can grow 365 days a year, 12 months a year, production at 20 hours per day, as opposed to between 6 and 9 hours, 6 and 9 months, beg your pardon, of the other 2 systems. So there's a huge difference in output. Again, being a positive for our particular system. Well, here's a quick comparison. The superfood, and that's why I wanted everyone to remember the superfood, 1974, is just take 2 items, protein and iron. Well, the superfood that they had from those raceway ponds in 1974 gave spirulina at least twice as much protein as beef and 22 times or more than vegetables. And the iron content is 11 times more than beef and 28 times more than fish even. So you can see a huge profile. The issue that they had at the time was the technology did not allow them to adapt that algae to be more efficient at growing. And unfortunately, you can't make nature grow any faster than nature intended. So you needed to adapt to make the growth more efficient. Well, that's exactly what we did. Our system today, if it's the superfood of yesterday in 1974, then we have that hyperfood today. And you can see here, again, protein and iron, we have slightly higher multiples of iron and protein. But the result is that this hyperfood is actually anywhere between 17 and 20% higher gram for gram than any other spirulina on the market today. So the system, being an environment that's controlled, allows us to get that efficiency of a further 20% approximately out of the yield and the nutrition density, as you can see. So based on that, well, 2019, we won an award for superiority in engineering for industrial scale systems. But the same year in 2019, the Food and Agriculture Organization actually announced that human iron deficiency was linked to the lack of iron and trace elements in the soil that grows our food. So spirulina should be taken now more than ever. But we come up with another solution. The algae grows in water, in a broth, in a medium, whatever you want to call it. It grows with nutrients. So as we extract this spirulina and dry it and make it into pills or powder, we have what's left as the byproduct, which is the water that it grows in. Well, we did a test several times over a couple of years where we actually grew basically crops. You can see from the picture, the first picture is without using spirulina medium, let's call it, or broth. And then you've got the picture on the right, which shows a bigger increase in yield for that particular crop. And that's purely because spirulina not only is very good for us as humans, it's the hyperfood today, but it's also the hyperfood fertilizer for tomorrow in nutrition density for our food as we move down the road in the future. So our bioreactors give the farmers a real solution for future nutrient density in the food and the crops that we eat every day. You can see here, and again, everyone's welcome to have a copy of this, but our bioreactor technology gives us the best hyperfood spirulina in supplements for humankind. It also gives the best agricultural benefits for that food. And I'm pleased to say that actually, as of January 2025, 51 years later after the problem, the United Nations actually started using our spirulina, which is a real milestone for our work. So what's going to happen next? Well, it's an exciting time. Technology has moved on. And so the future of our particular technology, based on the most advanced bioreactor technology, really is the human body. The human body is the best natural bioreactor that ever existed. And just like algae, our bodies rely on light. We rely on water. We're made up of 80% or plus water. We require nutrients, whether it be in supplements to support the food and food itself. We also require and maintain a steady temperature and pH balance, just like the algae does. So we've decided to mimic, and the future technology is where we will house our particular photosynthetic bioreactor, which you've just seen, with a new technology, which is fermentation, which opens up a whole new world for real bioavailability in nutrition. And with Syngeno, I'm pleased to announce that our state-of-the-art bioreactor technology will be housed in a single unified system. And this is not just going to be a technological achievement, it's actually going to be a blueprint for future companies, future generations. It allows us, this technology will allow us to reshape sustainable nutrition. And what do I mean by sustainable nutrition? Well, sustainable nutrition in the fact where the byproducts of the growth of algae, both in fermentation or photosynthesis or a combination of the two, will allow us to make packaging which is biocompostable. It's something we're working on now, and therefore we're going to refine how the world grows. It's going to grow sustainable. We're going to eat well, and we're all going to thrive. That's really the mission statement that we have with this technology. So, ladies and gentlemen, the future starts here, and I'll be sharing this new technology with you all by the turn of this year. And I just want to make one thing clear. For me, this is more than a product. It is a philosophy, and it's more than a technology. It will be a movement. And so I thank you all very much for taking the time to listen to me today.
Fantastic, Tino. So much to unpack in all of that. I've been taking notes myself. As you can see, I was able to complete a full page. And I've had conversations about this beforehand. So I can only imagine the kind of notes everybody else has been taking as you've gone through that. And
Right.
where do we begin a conversation? The last part really provoked me. So I'm going to start with the last part because this delves into a lot of what I've been really interested in lately, which is this notion of a food philosophy. And given where we are in the world, to me, supplements and supplementation are at the sharp end of facilitating better nutritional health. But you've just alluded to it, and I want to hear more of your thoughts. We need a manifesto of change. Agriculture needs to step into the 21st century. It needs to consider the challenge, the problem, and the innovation capacity. So, to that point, what what are the limits of this, Tino? What are the limits to this? And then once you've addressed the limits of it, I want to know how, like, really on what scale, how big is the opportunity?
Well, let me ask you a question, Colin, just to clarify. What would you class as a limit? I mean, if you're asking me what's the limits on will this spirulina, for example, spirulina, as we know, our spirulina is a hyperfood. It's not a superfood anymore. It's a hyperfood. Why? It's 20% higher in nutritional density. The spirulina has various other vitamins in it that are not absorbed into the human body. It's, every plant grows a certain vitamin, for example, to safeguard itself. The reason why spirulina is great for nutrition as far as crop growth, farmers, is purely on the basis that it has a vitamin B12 in there that the plants love. And based on that, there really isn't any limit. I mean, the UN did extensive research, if you remember, extensive research from 1950 all the way up till they endorsed, which was 1974. And so they've had, the best part of 20 plus years to, use an old technology to create a superfood. We've created now 20%. That gain can rise to 40, maybe even 150%, we believe. We're not sure yet. But if we can achieve that, then there are no limits as far as I can see. I'm not a nutritionalist, I'm an engineer. But ultimately, at the end of the day, if people want to define a limit, I don't see a limit at this moment in time. The technology is forever evolving. We have the likes of artificial intelligence as well, which is not right today. It'll be right tomorrow. But when it is, it will open a whole new gateway for people to have literally, quote unquote, optimal nutrition, for sure.
But that's interesting because maybe it's semantics, but I don't think it is. When we start to look at limitations and then we're looking at where we operate, which is in health food supplementation.
Right.
I mean, to me, the more we go down that route, And if you just look at what you're proposing, so we're looking at 20% increase, 40%, 150. I always challenge
Sure.
percentages to go
Sure.
above 100, but we'll do that another time. Um, so is this, I mean, are we on the brink? Is this an era of a new mindset around food? You know, our historic interpretation of food took us so far. It's interesting that the data runs out in 74 because that's the inflection point with the onset of the ultra processed food industry. So it would have been really interesting to look beyond that. And so now, when we're looking at this and what capacity you have, to me, then that's the exact question. I mean, what is the limit on this? Is the limit that we need to redefine what food is, what constitutes food in the modern world? Like, where's the blurred line between a supplement and a food when you've got this level of kind of bioavailability?
Well, I mean, if you look at it on food, I mean, first of all, the problem that we have is food is really governed by a lot of lobbyists, as we know. You know, people have to eat better. It's clear. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
stop supplements. We should take supplements every single day for the rest of our lives, and you keep taking them, whether you're eating correctly or not. It's a need, you know. But I think right now it's absolutely essential to eat correctly. And eating correctly is not buying a hamburger down the road from McDonald's or any place like that. It's actually getting fresh produce from the ground that it has had a hyperfood, if you want to call it that, that's allowed it to grow. And by combining the two, it will give us optimal health. It's clear as day. I mean, all of the data and all of the science is looking that way for sure. You know.
T- Tino, that's interesting because I guess that's the point of the question I'm asking, and you've just covered it really. You're not a nutritionist, I am. So I look at things through a very nutritional lens. You look at it through an engineering lens, and thank God for that, because that's how we achieve great things. And that to me is, your comment in a nutshell is that we all need to eat well, and there's this notion of supplements forever. And I guess the point I'm making, when you look at this and its full capacity, is we have to redefine what is food, because there's this historic notion of what food is, and we don't live in the past, we live in the now. And to me, these things blur the line between what a supplement is, because we're crossing over. We're going, well, no, like, what is your working definition of food? Because if this has got greater bioavailability, it's far more sustainable in the nature by which it's produced. When you start to tick all these boxes, it's like, well, why does that not qualify as a food? We're categorizing it as a supplement purely because of the modality of consumption. But in reality, what we're talking about here, which is what I've been calling for a long time, is we're really looking at how the whole supplement industry evolves into
Yeah,
21st century food tech.
sure. I mean, I think, Colin, it's also a case of, if you look at where we are as adults, you've got to look at where the children are and where they will be. And I think it's important that we have to secure a future for them, whether we like it or not. And right now, there is a problem globally. There's still malnutrition. I mean, we are, 51 years down the road, and there's still malnutrition in the world. I mean, that should not exist. And it only exists purely on the basis that companies, lobbyists, if you want to call it that, they want to keep their particular industry going, but it's a dying industry, unfortunately. And the kids now, and really my mission on this is for our next generations. It's to move on with good food, because here's the thing: if you've got, for example, I'll give you an idea. In our testing, we tested it on tomato or tomato, depending on whether you're American, and the yield of a plant on tomatoes, a standard tomato, we had a yield of about 2 kilos from one plant, which is the norm in soil today. Well, we yielded 6 kilos, to give you a comparison, in our testing in tomatoes. So you can
Hmm.
see 2 or 6. Well,
Yeah.
it was less tomato, but higher in weight. So if you look at the farming industry, it's a win-win for them. And that's where I think the corner will change. And it's what we're working on right now. Why? Because every produce that they sell is based on weight. So if they're yielding more, they're making more money. And if they've got the water, the broth, if you like, of the spirulina or the fermenter, which I'll let Orion discuss that conundrum if you like. But basically, ultimately, it's to look at the future of the next generations, because it's taken 51 years for us to arrive to this point. Why, I don't know. I don't need to know. We're just here today, and we've got to look at tomorrow. And I think the important factor is to do some good for the next generations, because to actually combat soil erosion and depletion and malnutrition with the roadmap we're on right now, it's not something that's going to happen from one day to the next. It's going to take time. And so it's important that everyone understands that nutrition on higher density does not require you eating more, which means people will have a better diet, better immune system, and less problems later on, which is what we're finding now through research with Jean-Jacques and other things that are going on right now scientifically.
Okay, Tino, I'm going to pull you back from two cliffs that you're currently on. One is the political one. Let's come back from that a little bit, Tino. It's not that I disagree necessarily, but I don't think this is the forum. And then let's be careful where we go, because we can make reference to data around health once it's published and it's been through the peer review. We can discuss those things, but for now, let's just pull back, because there's enough magic and substance in what you're doing for us to explore. Because this then goes into the next part of that question. What are the limitations? I think we agree that there's a notion of kind of mindset around that and how we have to redefine certain things. There are some great, for those people who are paying attention to this, there are some great books there at the moment about food philosophy and global agenda around how we do food better. And actually, Tino, they back up 99% of what you've been saying. So I'd encourage people to look at those. So now let's look at the opportunity, because I would imagine everybody on here is an optimist, and we are certainly opportunists.
Absolutely.
What's the opportunity here? We're talking about spirulina, superfood, how we can get the nutrients. What does the future look like in this, Tino? How far can we take this? What can we achieve?
What can we achieve? Well, like I said, I mean, the whole idea and my mission is to achieve people where, from a technology point of view, is we're here today with the hyperfood. You can call it superfood. I call it hyperfood now because of the density. Where would we be, let's say, in 5 years' time? Well, in 5 years' time, the biggest issue that I see, Colin, if I can talk very openly here, and that is people don't know what the body needs. Your brain doesn't turn around to you and say, hey, you know what? I've got a pain here. Okay, that's fine. Or I need iron, or I need sodium, or I need, an amino acid. You don't have that perceived notion or mindset. It's just we need nutrition. The best plant in the world, for sure, beyond doubt, which has all the amino acid profile, is spirulina. The densest is what we have. So the future is looking at furthering the technology. And what I mean by that is looking at a technology where the technology will tell you what you need when you need it, if you see what I mean. So, how many pills do you take for spirulina? I mean, I take 10 a day. Most people will take 4 a day. Why do I take 10? Because 10 is better than 4, basically. The more you take, the better it is. You can't overdose on any of these products. They're all 100% natural. So I think the only way the technology will go is to actually, support the person, as far as, we're building a platform, as we've discussed before, where we're looking at building the biggest oncology database in the world right now, based on 100% natural nutrition, based on the spirulina product, phycocyanin, X-Gold, and all the rest of the products. And at the end of the day, really the notion in that is, what do you take? When do you take it? What's the best time to take it? And I think that if you have something that can actually tell you to take it when you need it, then that's going to be a valuable tool, because our mission, or my mission, is to give everyone in the world, if we can, the option to have optimal health. And we need it. There are too many problems right now with regards to issues that people have, and one of them is linked to the crops. So we need to deal with that. But there's no restrictions, absolutely zero restrictions. I mean, the fermentation technology that I mentioned, housed with the spirulina technology, will give us the opportunity to increase bioavailability. It will allow us to extract different products, create isolates. So it will open up formulas uh, for specific parts of your body. We have a resonance technology. There's a whole heap, which I can't mention too much now because the patent's going through, but there's going to be a whole heap of additions to this technology. But I can't see that there is anything that's going to stop us advancing. I really can't right now.
There's a couple of bits on that. I mean, obviously, with my background, and I like the idea of being able to test parameters, and I can already see like questions going, are we going to be able to test this and this? And just to answer that question in a broad way, we're always looking at test potential. So I look at circadian factors. And so time of day, actually careful though, folks, because you can't have too careful. I don't want people taking 20 spirulina tabs a day, and there's lots of other things that people take with us. So caution on that. I do appreciate your eagerness though, Tino. But
Yeah,
even if they're naturally derived, so we do have to always be mindful of this, but that's where the testing comes into its own as well, is being able to test this and look at individual sensitivities and optimize times of day. And then looking at bioavailability. Now that's a key one. And from there, Tino, if you don't mind, I want us to jump into a little product stuff because I don't know if you've noticed, but that box keeps going on fire, going, talk about products, talk about products.
no
So for
problem.
a moment, and we're not here to do the full product lineup talk, but
Yeah,
it's clear to me that people on here would love some background on things like the spirulina tablets or X Gold or
yeah.
phycocyanin. So can you tell us a little bit of the background of those products?
Well, let me start with phycocyanin, if I may, Colin. The
Yeah.
phycocyanin is where we basically grow the spirulina in the famous bioreactor. We dewater it, and so you end up with basically spirulina powder. The spirulina powder then goes through a process which is 100% natural using salt and water, where we lower the temperature and we extract the phycocyanin. Why? Because the protein content of our particular spirulina is 67, 68%. And from that, we're able to extract the maximum of phycocyanin, which is about 17%. The total phycocyanin in spirulina on our phycocyanin is about 18, 19%. So 18.8, 19%. And so we're able to extract 70% out, which gives us that wonderful blue liquid, effectively. And that is a natural extraction. The thing that's important with the phycocyanin is you can look at phycocyanin in the world today and see adverts for phycocyanin, and everyone goes, well, that's blue powder. Yes, it's phycocyanin. It's actually supposed to be crude phycocyanin. And what do I mean by that? The crude phycocyanin is extracted naturally and contains three main filibility proteins, they're called, light-emitting proteins, right? And so you have, or you must have, phycocyanin CPC, which is the phycocyanin, APC, which is aloe phycocyanin, and then you have phycoerythrin, which is PE. The reason why ours works so well in contrast to other products is because they have the three protein peptides effectively in that particular product. And that's why it works. If you're missing one, then it doesn't work as good. And so if you look at what's on the high street now, for example, if you wanted to look at that, you go, well, it's phycocyanin. No. If it doesn't say phycocy, which is all three, then ultimately you're not getting all three protein peptides. And therefore, it's not naturally extracted. That's the most important. Most people that actually extract use solvents. We don't ever use solvents. We won't do them. It's a natural. So that's why the phycocyanin is so good as a product.
Yeah.
And it's really good. I mean, we've had that. I mean, it's great for animals. It's great for us humans. It gives you, it's great for the gym. If you're a gym goer, then ultimately at the end of the day, you should use that pre and post workout.
Hmm.
I think the amount to be taken daily for let's say is 8 mils in 150 mils of water. Yeah, I mean, again, you can up the dose. It depends how active you are. If you're a gym goer, I would suggest that you do 16 mils before and 8 mils after, or 16 mils after, depending on how strenuous your workout. Because the recovery time for the muscles, it gives you more oxygen to your muscles, slows down the lactic acid, you repair faster. Why? Because you can train for longer and you'll see your stamina increase. Some people uh, use it every day because we all have to work, we all we're all doing something in our lives. At the end of the day, it's a great product to give you that energy that you need every day. And if you combine that with the source of phycocyanin, which happens to be the Spiramax, where it came from, then ultimately you're not only getting the effects of the anti-inflammatory, antioxidants, but you're also getting the nutrients to replace what it's being removed. And that's mainly due to oxidative stress. One thing that Spiramax is good for is to actually eliminate the oxidative stress as well and replenish the nutrient base. Because it's got all the amino acid profile, then you'll get, if you take the two, you're getting the best of both worlds. So with ours being 17 to 20% higher, then yes, you can expect to get more nutrition where it's needed at the end of the day. I think the important factor also is with the Spiramax is you've got beta carotene. Beta carotene is great for your eyes. It's good for your brain at the end of the day. So you're getting a benefit nutritional wise of Spiramax for the whole body to run.
Yeah.
You're getting the benefit of phycocy, and the phycocy is the benefit for energy, more oxygen, and also the antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties, which then is a precursor for nitric oxide later on, depending on whether you're at the gym or not. So the two combined are very good, but certainly from a nutritional value, it's the Spiramax, which is the real baby for nutrition. That's for sure. There's nothing that's more. And to give you an idea, like I said in my slides, if you look at meat, you're talking 11 times more iron, and therefore it's good for women. It's good for women menstruating. It actually lowers cramps, according to the scientific evidence. So women should take it. Children should take it in small doses, but it's certainly the Spiramax is a great product for nutrition for every person. And if you haven't got any iron problems from a doctor, then certainly take it, because it helps for sure boost iron, and iron's needed, as you know, for the blood. It's also, I might add, the only iron that's absorbed without having to be metabolized. So Spiramax, the iron that's in Spiramax, does not require metabolizing, unlike what we used to, which is spinach. Spinach has a high value of iron, but it's Fe3, which needs to metabolize to Fe2 before it gets absorbed, for the scientific people that hear on the call. But Spirulina is 80%, 83% bioavailability, and of which you get all that iron straight in the blood system, which is an important factor.
Yeah, but to be careful, I mean, there's still a level of metabolic interaction, and the and that bioavailability is what we would call like that kind of metabolic enabler,
Yeah.
which is phenomenal. There's just a couple of things before I ask you to do a last comment about X Gold, because I've seen this debate raging in the box, and anytime there's a mention of amino acids, I see this debate rage, and everyone says you need 8, you need 21, and all that. From your diet, just to clarify
Yeah.
this, from your
Yeah.
diet, you want a full spread of amino acids, and then you have a targeted approach. So you don't need every type of amino acid at the exact same time. You need that provision across your diet. And we always talk about how we intelligently supplement our diet. And that's why
Yes.
also this ties into another question that we get a lot is this notion of, well, if I'm taking this, should I take this? We provide the health protocol, and then what we're looking at are options, really intelligent options that you are empowered to make decisions about. You've made this mention in phycocyanin and phycocy. For someone with a sports background, we've been looking at phycocyanin my entire career, looking at
Yeah.
its impact and its measurable contribution positive to sports recovery, sports performance. And so, regardless, and you're right, actually, by the way, Tino, I completely agree. What sets phycocy apart is that completeness of those three. And so you're looking at targeted tweaks to what it is you're doing to optimize your diet. And so we've got a few minutes remaining, and you've so well covered those two. Do you want to make some comments about X Gold?
Yeah, X-Gold's a great product purely on the basis that it's turmeric, it's Cumalonga actually,
Mm,
and it's an extraction of various types of the Cumalonga, uh, uh, curcumin as we call it. It's extremely good for the blood, and it lasts a long time in the blood. So taking a combination, if you like, let's take X-Gold. It lasts about 4 hours in your body of the recommended dose. It's extremely good for skin. It's extremely good for basically antioxidants. That combined with phycoscience is really good, a really great combination. Really purely on the basis that you've got the longevity of curcumin and its effects on the body and on the cells, and it really cleans out. In fact, we all have ghosts, what we call ghost cells in the body. The ghost cells are the cells that really just linger, don't do anything. They need clearing out, and you need an antioxidant to get rid of them. And so the curcumin is extremely good for that. It's something that the phycoside does not do. So the
yeah.
combination of the two together, or the Spiramax to get the nutrients in whilst you're getting rid of effectively those ghost cells, is an extremely a good combination. So X Gold is, if you really want a good clean, you want to replenish your skin at the end of the day. It's very good for people that suffer with psoriasis. They should be taking it as well. It's also very good for the gut and the immune boost, just as well as the spirulina. So it's really a central combination between phycoside and spirulina to take for those reasons, for sure.
So I am going to pull you from the edge of the cliff of health claims, Tino, but I do appreciate the point that you're making. We always have to be careful because there's so much individualization.
There's a
For
lot of
me,
data, yeah, all right.
when we look at the Zealous lineup, I mean, obviously, Phycocy speaks for itself, and as does Spirulina. My my kind of pet favorite of the bunch has been X Gold because it's such an elegant and effective version of what it is, and that's a really dominated market. And then what happens over here is you develop this product that's actually a game changer in itself with regards to its function
Yeah,
and
through the
bioavailability.
extraction, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think it promises what actually the majority failed to deliver. And I think
right,
it actually delivers that. And
right.
that's what I enjoy about that product so much. I'm mindful of the fact that we've got 6 minutes left, Tino, and there's so much we could really explore off the back of all this. But I want to dedicate these last few minutes to move back away from products. I hope people are happy that we've covered some of that. We've really gone into a depth of detail over the notion of where this all fits in the modern world and how things are changing. I mean,
Yeah,
your mind, I have to say, Tino, in how you've kind of developed these technologies in order to be able to do this, to position yourself to do this. And you've already hinted towards making that more test-based and other types of innovation. So I want to dedicate the last 2 or 3 minutes to you, Tino, and blue sky thinking. So here we are. The year is 2028. You and I are having a conversation about everything we've done in the past 3 years and what we've developed. What would be the dream? Tell me what the dream would be, Tino.
what's my dream? My dream, like I said to you earlier, Colin, my dream is to give everybody the ability to have optimal health. It really is. Is to give everyone the best possible nutrition, which is going to give our current generation and the next generations. My real focus is really on the next generations. And my dream is for people to wake up in the morning, not worry about, what am I going to eat? What, how am I feeling? Whether, what's the future like for me as a person? A lot of people are needing nutrition for different things. And it doesn't matter whether you're going to the gym or not. At the end of the day, if we've got a superfood, then let's be kind of superhuman, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think for me, the dream is really to give as many people as I possibly can with you guys, the best nutrition in the best ways possible. Part of those two ways is in supplements, which has to be done every single day religiously. People have to take it, whether they like it or not. It's a requisite today. It's to give the children the crops of tomorrow. And if I can achieve that task within these next 3 years, and I believe I can, then at the end of the day, I think we've really made a mark in the world. And it's not for the thanks or anything. It's just to say, hey, I came here for a reason. That's really basically it. You know.
We all need a purpose, and for most of us, Tina, we have to find that for ourselves.
Yeah.
So let's get a bit like more. Let's shrink the timeline. Don't give too much away because obviously we're aware of things that we're working on at the moment. But
Yeah.
what kind of thing can people expect to see from us in collaboration in the next 6 to 9 months?
People will certainly see the new technology as far as the unified reactor technology. They'll see a very much an open window of what formulas can be made and how good the formulas will be in the future, as a
Mm.
base from Spirulina moving forward. Um, the packaging for sure will be biocompostable packaging. It might even be, we're working on some packaging right now that's which actually you throw in your sink, pour hot water on it, and it just dissolves, so there's no waste. But the idea is to make everything as sustainable as possible. So from a natural product to a 100% natural packaging at the end of the day, whether it's biocompostable and then moves on to something that dissolves in 90 degrees or 70 degrees water. That's something we're working on. That'd be great because it's dissolvable. But looking further ahead and looking at the technology is to look at the technology where people will be able to pick up that product, and that product through an app will tell them exactly how they're feeling and what they need when they need it. And that's part of the roadmap for the optical nutrition. And I think that that's going to happen pretty damn quick. I mean, if you think about it, the unified reactor is going to be moving forward and basically running to share with you guys by the end of this year, the turn of this year, and that's what we're working on now. But the packaging at the same time. So, I think from a packaging point of view, I think from October forward there'll be something that I'll have for you guys to have a look at and demonstrate for sure. The future of packaging, I think, is probably to be connected to a mobile phone to find out how people feel. Not to check anything apart from the fact is this is your own unique advisor that keeps you as healthy as possible. And that's what we all want. I don't think there's anybody here that doesn't want to be healthy. And so the optimal goal is to give everyone that opportunity. And technology will help us do that for sure. So
Fantastic.
that's what's on the roadmap. Without
I
giving too
think
much
you've left,
away.
I think you've left people excited enough. I'm only going to
I
add to
hope.
that is sustainability. I mean, first of all, there's ecology, there's sustainability, and there's ethics. And a lot of organizations have, policies for this, and it sounds great. We're very much a kind of practical organization, and we'd rather make investments and inquiries and things that we can actually do rather than just produce manifestos. And I think you're one of those people, Tino. It's been a real joy to kind of let the world see you a bit, Ever since you came with us, it's been an absolute privilege and a joy to work with you. I enjoy our meetings and your mind. I find fascinating in how you go about things. It's
Likewise,
totally,
Colin.
it's totally different to us, and that's what is part of what makes it so exceptional and amazing.
With what I've
So,
been through with the UN, I won't stop until it's done. You can be rest assured.
and I have no doubts, Tino. I have no doubts, believe me. So listen, I want to say on behalf of everyone here, huge thanks, Tino, for everything that you've shared today. It has been fantastic. The
The
comment
same
box
to
is
you.
already on fire. I want to thank all of you people for being here for this, let's call it the summer edition of the Meetings of Minds. The next one will be in August. I won't be at that one because I will be on vacation somewhere sunny, hopefully. But I want you all to be well, stay well, look after each other until then, because we all need a little bit more love and care in the world. And thank you again, Tino. I look forward to catching up with you soon. And to everyone else, have a great time in this phenomenal weather, and we look forward to seeing you all soon. Stay well. See you again. Bye now.
All in love. Take care.